So Nintendo just announced a new Switch, and it's really dumb. So the Nintendo Switch Lite is just a light version of the Switch. Really small, really compact, and objectively worse in every way. It has no TV connection, it has no Joy-Cons, it has no kickstand, it's just handheld mode, which your normal Switch already has. Now I will give Nintendo props for this, and the thing looks pretty alright. It's noticeably smaller, and that's obvious because it's supposed to be a portable version of the Switch, but I don't get the point of it. Now I may not be part of the target audience for this thing. It's obvious it's just meant for little Timmy who wants a Switch and can't really handle the full version of what the Switch is capable of. Now one of my main issues with it is that it doesn't look very appealing. You get 3 colors, gray, yellow, and turquoise, and that's it. Those are your only options. Now I will admit there is actually a 4th option coming out, and that is the Pokemon version, but that won't be out until a full 2 months after the original release of the Nintendo Switch Lite. Another one of my issues with this thing is its battery life. We don't actually know what the battery life is going to be, but this thing is obviously smaller than the original Switch, so it's going to have a smaller battery. So maybe Nintendo cut out some processors or whatever to make it actually not run games as well, and because of that, it won't need as much battery power. But from what we've seen in the trailers, it runs games pretty normally, how they would run on a normal Nintendo Switch. They look just as fine. So actually doing some of my research, it does show that the Switch Lite has 3 to 7 hours of battery, which is actually larger than the Nintendo Switches. It states that Breath of the Wild can run up to 4 hours rather than 3 hours, which somehow is better than the normal Nintendo Switch, which doesn't make sense because it has a smaller battery, but this could support the theory that it does have less graphical power. But again, from the trailers, it doesn't actually seem like there's anything. So it may have less graphical power, but at least it isn't noticeable. In the trailer, it states that in order to play 1-2 Switch, you need to have a separate pair of Joy-Cons, which means that this thing can connect to other controllers, as in you can use normal Joy-Cons on it, which means you could also probably use a Pro controller on this thing, which doesn't make sense at all because there's no kickstand for it. So technically, tabletop mode could be possible on this thing. It may not have normal Pro controller support, but it does seem to have normal Joy-Con support. Of course, the thing has no motion controls. It states in the trailer that there is no motion controls, which makes sense, I guess. They easily probably could have fit that IR camera in there to give it motion controls. Things like the 3DS has motion controls, so that thing is much smaller. So I feel like that's a cutback that didn't really make any sense, but again, you can probably use your existing Joy-Con controllers if you already have a Switch. I wouldn't pick up Joy-Con controllers for this thing because it doesn't really make any sense, especially since there's no kickstand for it, so you'd have to prop it up on like a box or something. Another issue I have with this thing is its price. It is $200 compared to the normal Switch's $300, and that doesn't make sense to me. Now sure, Nintendo already thinks that playing on the TV is already worth $100, but I just think it is objectively better to be playing on both handheld and a TV, and it might be worth that $100. I feel like if you're part of the Switch's demographic in general, the extra $100 for the ability to play on the TV and on the go just kind of seems worth it to me. But again, I'm not part of that demographic. Maybe there's, some smaller children who really want to Switch, but maybe don't really care for the fact that you can play it on the TV, and the parents who are buying it for either their birthday or their Christmas is, oh look, it's only $100 cheaper, let's just get this version. Or maybe there's, busy people who are like, yeah, I love the idea of the Switch, playing video games, it's one of my favorite things to do as a kid, just I'm not in front of a TV all the time, I'm not home all the time, so maybe these busy people who go on business trips all the time are going to buy this smaller version of the Switch, especially since it has a bigger battery life, as well as the fact it's more smaller, compact, so they can fit more of the necessities that they have. But for me, I don't need it. I don't want it. It looks cool, it looks alright, but I don't need it. Now, maybe Nintendo is trying to express, variety of the Switch. You have the flexibility of the normal Switch to say, hey, you can play on the TV, you can play on the go. It's all fine. And then they're also catering to the side of the people who, I don't really want to pay $300 for the thing I'm only going to use in handheld, so they released a cheaper version that can only use handheld. But I mean, hey, I don't think that this is a terrible idea. I don't think it's going to flop, it's going to fail, and this is awful, and Nintendo never should have done this. I just wish Nintendo would have done this much earlier. Not 2 years into the Switch's lifespan. Almost 3. We're about halfway there now. It's just not now. Now is not the time to do it. It would have been better if Nintendo announced this earlier, like maybe within the first year of the console, or even at launch. It would have been much better if Nintendo, right at the launch, said, here you go, here's the big Switch. You can play on the TV, you can play on the go everywhere. Or maybe some people aren't really interested in the TV part. They only really want the on the go. So here you go. Here's the portable Omi version. You can choose. This one's $300, this one's $200. Boom. Coming out March 3rd. It would have been much better if Nintendo have done that. Now, sure. Now we're getting it. Now we're getting that Switch. And now people who want to buy a Switch but didn't because it was kind of expensive. Here you go. Here's this version. But I don't care for it. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if some of you guys know this, but Japan already kind of has a Switch Lite in the sense that they are selling a bundle Nintendo Switch. This is a normal version of the Switch, your average detached Joy-Cons, tabletop, but it doesn't come with the dock. It also doesn't come with an AC adapter, so you can't even charge the thing, which doesn't make sense at all, but whatever. And it is cheaper than the normal Nintendo Switch. You can buy a regular, average Switch that doesn't come with the ability to have the TV, at least at the start. You can buy your cheaper Switch without the AC adapter, without the dock, and then later on buy the dock. So now you have that cheaper Switch with the ability to play on the TV. But, it's only in Japan, and again, not everyone wants that ability to play on the TV. There is the compact version, which is meant for the people who just want handheld. So, sure, maybe it is a good idea to have both a Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch Lite. I don't care for it. I might pick it up just because that Pokemon one looks really nice, but not anytime soon. I'm really hopeful for what Nintendo has in the future for the Switch. I really feel like this is just the 2DS of the Nintendo Switch. And if they ever decide to do the new Nintendo Switch, kind of like what they did with the 3DS, then who knows what they're going to offer there. Thanks for watching.